Hey there YouTube, AJ here, and this week I'm going to be strengthening and modifying my Harbor Freight 36-inch metal brake to make it work better and just to add some convenience factors for use. I was working on my car, trying to bend some metal, found some issues with the Harbor Freight brake. First time I'd used it. Going forward, I need to use it a lot more, and I need to get this thing to where it works a lot better before then. So I'm just gonna have to take a pause from working on the car and deal with this thing. Let me show you some of what I'm talking about. Okay, first and foremost, the clamping leaf. When you clamp a piece of sheet metal down in it, it's got too much give to it, and these brackets back here where it bolts down wants to slide and slip, so you can't get a good straight brake. Want to deal with that, I'm going to be strengthening the frame, because on both sides, this gap here, there's just this little bit of weld holding it, so this tends to flex. So I'm going to add a plate in here that doubles as strengthening this bolt here. Then on the back side, I'm going to be adding a piece in here to bolt this flange that holds everything together. I'm going to put a second bolt in that'll clamp that, and we'll have to make it to where this has to adjust, so we'll have to make it to where this will still be able to slide. So we're going to do those two things. Then back out front here, the bending leaf, it's got this it has this very small area to work with, and so I want to extend the table of that. So I got this piece of angle, scrap angle, already has 5/16 holes drilled in it, and I'll be cutting this to fit and bolting this on to give me more bending surface here. I'm also going to slot these holes to where I can drop it down a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in case I need to allow for a piece of bent metal in here. I can always take it completely off too, but I want to try to make it a little more adjustable than just have it bolted flat on there. We're also going to do something with these handles that are too short to give us more leverage when we're bending. I'm going to do something to strengthen these bolts here, as well as reverse these handles. I want to make it to where this position is clamped instead of that position, and then this will be the open position. To do that, I'm just going to take this handle, put it on the other side, and put the other handle on this side. So just basically reverse it. The other major modification I'm going to need is, currently, if you don't have this thing bolted to the floor and you go to bend something, it's going to want to lift and tip over. And you can get around that by kind of standing on it like this, but it's pretty awkward, especially if your piece is longer. So I've got these two pieces of steel that were scavenged off of a set of metal sawhorses that had been thrown away, and I scavenged them up. So I'm going to cut these, modify them to work in here, and this will have two purposes. One, it'll help make the whole thing more sturdy and square it up, and two, it'll give me a place to stand on anywhere along the way to help hold the whole thing down while I'm bending. I think that's the general gist of everything I'm trying to accomplish. I might come across something else I need to address along the way, but we'll start with that, and there'll be more details in how I do that, because I'm not just going to bolt that angle on here. I'm going to strengthen it, etc., etc. Same thing with the bars down there. I'm going to add other features as I go. Let's start by prepping these things, which I got to cut out these rivets and get some brackets off of them, get this handle cut off of it, and prepping our angle for the front leaf. Let's get these prepped so we can move on and get started. Okay, well, all I did to this was cut it to the right length and knock all the loose stuff off of it. At some point I will slot this to give myself some adjustment room in here. Not going to do that yet until after it's mounted the first time, so we make sure we get it mounted correct and level. And we're going to use these holes to line everything up on the brake. These were a lot harder to deconstruct than I was expecting. I thought these would fall right apart, but man, these things were made pretty well actually. Those rivets did not want to come out. Surprising. Anyway, got to finish cleaning those up and then weld up some holes in them, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we got our leaf extender in place, level with the top of the bending leaf, clamped in. I'm going to take a transfer punch, transfer the center point of each hole into the leaf itself. That way we know where to drill our holes for our bolt holes. And then we'll, after we get the holes drilled, we'll tap them into this leaf. A transfer punch is a bunch of different size punches, the exact same size as your hole, with a point on it. And that way you can make sure you get your hole, your divot where you need to start your new hole, exactly lined up with the existing hole.
Clips off. Take a leaf extender off.
And you can see where I've got my starting points for each of my holes, which, why is this? Oh, it's right there. That looked like a hole, but it's not, it's right there. So just so we don't forget, we will circle it. Now we'll drill each of these with a pilot hole and then drill it to final size before we tap it. Okay, so we got all our holes lined up here. I suppose I could just bolt it to there and call it good. But because I like to overcomplicate things and make my life difficult, for some reason I think if I take and make slots here to where I can drop this down, say a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and retighten it, that would allow me to put a double flange in up close, I think, if need be. I don't know if I ever would need that, but for some reason I think I want to go ahead and put that in there. So I need to drill holes here, 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 and here, and slot it. Be about a 1/2 inch of adjustment. Is it worth it for the work? No, probably not, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, after a lot of filing, I connected the holes and I made my slots in my leaf extender. I may not ever use it, but if I have to, it's there. So basically, if we bolt it down like that, our extended table for the leaf is longer to give more support and leverage. If we drop it, I can have up to a 1/2 inch of offset to put in close bends together. I don't know if I'll ever actually need that. I will bolt this down in the flush position for now, and we'll see if we ever need that. This isn't quite done yet. I'm going to cut up some small little triangle braces, put one here at the end and one in the middle of each bolt section and one at the other end. I'll weld those in. I'll do that once I'm ready to start welding stuff. So that's it for the leaf extension. Let's see, let's move on. Okay, so before we weld up holes in our foot supports, I want to make sure I'm not welding up something I'm just going to be getting rid of anyway, because I'm going to be putting in speed holes in this panel as well to strengthen it up, and let's face it, really just because speed holes look cool.
That makes it a lot easier than I was thinking.
Alright, pilot holes are all drilled. Time to go get a hole saw. Okay, well, the biggest dimple die that I own is 1 3/4 inch. So that's what we're going to go with. 1 3/4 hole saw, 1 3/4 dimple die. Let's start making some bigger holes. Okay, well, I got all the holes drilled. Man, that's a pain in the butt. I managed to break one of the pilot bits. I bent another, which I've never had that happen before, so that was weird. And then I broke off a whole bunch of teeth on my hole saw. I really didn't think these saw horses that I scabbaged were really that great. But I've had a whole lot of trouble deconstructing them, getting the rivets out and such, and then trying to drill holes in this metal. Man, it's apparently better than I thought. Now, most of you probably know how dimple dies work, but in case you don't, you have two dies that go together. One die has a recessed area. The other die has a centering piece, so they go mate together firmly, and it is tapered the opposite way of this die. So they meet together completely. Now, when you put a piece of metal between them and press them, that metal is forced to take the shape of this recess. Now, you could just put this in the metal and hammer them together, but since this is kind of a heavier duty thing, I'm going to use my press here. I had to put a piece of steel in here to bring this die up level with this surface, because you don't want any gap between the top of this die and the metal you're getting ready to press. But you put the die in, put in your male die, and like right now you can see there's a gap here, almost 1/4 inch. Now I'm also going to use my other press plate to take up the gap there and to evenly distribute the weight over top of the dies. Now, for what I've got going on here, you just pump up the hydraulics, and you should be able to see this die slowly jamming into the metal and shaping. Okay. Release it. And now, as you can see, this die is sitting flush to the metal. And that's because it's put in an indent into the steel here. That'll look better once I clean it up and then paint everything together, but right now it's kind of hard to see the indent. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. We got all our holes dimple dyed now, and I don't know how well you can see them on camera, but they do look good. Like I said, once I strip this yellow paint crap off here, they'll look even better. So we're gonna run with that. These are ready to get welded, all the holes up, and get welded in. Okay, so we got our leaf extender kind of in place. It's not tightened down yet. It's going to get painted, so no worries. We got our footboard, rails, whatever you want to call them, in place. However, it's looking a little knock-kneed, if you can see right here. So I'm going to have to trim these down just a little bit to bring these feet in nice and square, just so it doesn't look oblong. We'll do that before we weld everything in. But other than that, that's all looking pretty good. So now we want to address these brackets here. Like I said before, this tends to slip when you go to put pressure to bend your steel up. So we want to strengthen this. So I cut these brackets off of more scrap. Basically, we're going to weld these in here. And looks like I'm going to have to mark that for a little bit of relief. One, there's a weld here that's kind of raised up a little bit, and then this surface is not perfectly flush with that one, I don't think. But I think what we'll do is just kind of, I could just cut it off here and weld that in. But I kind of like the idea of having more on here. So maybe what I'll do is just kind of grind a relief in the back right here. Even though that's not ideal, it'll create a weaker spot here, but once I weld it in, it'll be okay. So we'll do that. And I'm gonna do the same thing right here. Put it right on that one. All right, so gonna need to put some relief on that so it sits flush. So I'm gonna go do that. In fact, might give me a chance to try out a new old tool I just got. I've been wanting a bigger bench grinder for some time now. I have a little 6-inch Ryobi grinder, and that thing has never really been that good. It's always made a lot of noise and vibrated, and never was happy with it. So this came up on Facebook Marketplace. I haven't even turned it on, tried it yet. So hopefully it's gonna work, one, and two, run smoothly, quietly, and not vibrate. So this is a 3/4 horse, 8-inch, so much bigger, beefier, a lot heavier. So let's kind of see if how it works. Not bad. Not trying to run away from me, and not noisy at all. Okay, I'm happy with my Facebook Marketplace purchase. Yeah, that's gonna work great for me. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get these grinded and we'll start fitting them over there. Okay, well, the new bench grinder works a treat. I love it. That's one. Ow, that's hot. Two. That one's not cooled down yet. There we go. Now what we need to do is drill a hole in here, but we want to make sure we leave enough room for this to slide the full length of this slide up here. We're going to slot the bottom piece and bolt up into this. We'll tap this, but we still want to make it to where this full adjustability is available back here too.
Let's loosen these up.
So if we slide it all the way back on both sides, then we're going to tighten it back down. All right, so now we want to drill a hole through this and at least mark the plate below, which may prove interesting. That's not good. All right, I'm going to have to drill my hole up from the bottom, which I can't do with my clamp in place. So what I'm going to have to do is just mark everything and hope I get it lined up correctly.
So this is the back of our bracket. Shoot, how far is that going to have to move?
Okay, now slide her all the way forward. Now we mark our same place here. So we got to make our slot, drill a hole that mark and that mark, and then make our slot connect the two. This should be real fun since we're eyeballing all this. Okay, those are all marked up. More drilling. Well, I got my slots drilled in these brackets. Probably still need to do some file work to clean them out so they run smooth, but that's beside the point. They're good enough I can mark these now. And that's where the fun starts, because I'm gonna have to drill these from the bottom. Well, I finally got the holes drilled in these. I need to tap them now. I broke my pilot bit in one of these deep in it. I couldn't get that thing out. I had to flip it over, start drilling it from the other side, and then punching it, getting little chips up at the bit to come out, and then drill, punch, repeat. It took a long time to get that broken bit out of there. That sucked. I probably should have kept count of how many drill bits I've broken working on this hot rod. Anyway, now we just need to tap these for a 5/16 bolt. Okay, the next area I need to address is this little tiny, you got this little weld here, you got this big gap here. So this allows for flexing because you only have two small spots there where it's connected. So what I'm planning to do is to kind of, one, tie in this piece up here to these side pieces to this bottom piece here to prevent this area from flexing. Now I'm also going to add in additional bracing to support this pivot point. So in here you can see they put a little spacer in here to keep this from going too far, but if you can tell, it's kind of already at an angle. It's not straight up and down. So I want to space this out correctly. I'm going to take out that spacer. I'm going to put in a plate that's going to tie in this, and that'll space out part of this, but it's not thick enough, so I'm going to use another layer of steel and a washer to create my new spacer that's going to tie all this in together, and it's going to be a lot more sturdier here. As you can see, I already cut out my spacers to put in there. I cut those out of this Wolf Tactical 5.75 pounds plate. I didn't know what this was when I got it. I just paid scrap value for it because, you know, just to have the plate steel. But turns out that these plates are for like a weighted vest to run in, and you can add different size plates to make it heavier or lighter or whatever. But this Wolf Tactical sell these things. I got a pair of these. They sell these things for 70 bucks for the pair, and I cut one up. Well, anywho, to put this on, you have to take off our handle assembly. The handle itself, come on, comes out separately. You can see it works on this eccentric cam here to pull it and open the jaw. And then this part just slides off. This spacer comes out, and this is a bolt that's welded to on the other side. It just sticks through. This one is a stud. It doesn't even go all the way through. It's just got a couple of welds here. I might, since I have this open, I might go ahead and complete the weld around where, because it's just tacked in 2 places. So I might go ahead and do that while when I weld everything together. What we got to do now is locate where the hole goes in our plates. Okay, so to locate our hole, we're going to kind of place our plate on center this way, mark the center of our pivot bolt, and we're going to do the same thing this way. Mark the center of our pivot bolt, get our square, draw one line, then the other, and where they intersect is where our hole goes for here. Then all we got to do is poke a hole through here, like that. Ah, if only it was that easy. Like that. Ah, if only it was that easy. So now we should be able to put this on here. And once it's on here, I'll put a, once it's everything's welded, I'll put a washer in here too. But anyway, we need to weld this up to here, across here, down here, weld this little plate to the bigger plate, etc., etc. Then that'll beef all this up. Now I know I mentioned in the beginning that I might reverse these handles so that when you pull them forward, they lock into place, but then I thought, well, that might be kind of awkward having this out here where you're trying to bend metal. So I'm going to leave these handles the way they are. Okay, so I started with a scrap of C-channel. Cut it up, cut out the parts I don't need, and then to make my corner braces, I bent these up and then cut them off at an angle. Yeah, so everything's cut and ready to go to welding, except for I want to do something about these little handles. Okay, well, it's painted for good or bad. Shows all the flaws. I found spots I missed welding. My welds aren't great, but hey, they'll hold, I hope, I think. Anyway, we're gonna roll with it and we're gonna put it back together now. I'm gonna start with this set of cheap skate trucks and wheels, because I made these brackets here on the end to hopefully be able to roll it around easier. So hopefully it will work as planned. We'll find out after a while here. Okay, well, it started raining, but fortunately my wheels worked the way I planned, so that's a good deal. And I was able to get everything put away before the real downpour happened, so that worked. Gonna go ahead now, put on our extender for our leaf. And before I do that, because the paint is still, I don't know, it's very humid here, so paint's not drying super fast. It feels pretty dry, but just to be safe, I'm going to put a coat of wax on here between the extender and the leaf, so they don't like try to bond together. I got some really old paste wax here, so we'll try to use it. Painted the extension in black, give it a little contrast, a little flare. Maybe I should wax and polish the whole thing out.
Nope.
Okay. Now, I'm going to put together the handles, but one thing we want to do with that is grease them. Put some grease on all the pivot points. There was no lubrication on any of this when I took it apart. Need a washer for spacer there. This goes this way. I want to smear some grease on this surface. Okay, let's do the other side. You can see I welded on this bar all the way across. I'm not sure that'll give me the leverage I want, but if it doesn't, I can always add to it later. Maybe like one handle in the middle to give it more leverage to get started or something. I don't know. I'm going to try it like this first. The reason I did this was I had this bar handy. It's 1-inch steel, it's heavy. I was going to originally like bend it down and over to give it more leverage, but it's already got tons of weight on it, so I didn't want to add to it by making it longer. Is it perfect? No. I missed spots in the welds. There's holes in the welds. The welds aren't great, but they'll hold. It'll be fine. I don't care. I was in a rush to get it done. Is it finished? No. Some of you may have realized I never put a handle on this side so I could use my wheels easily. I intended to, I just forgot. So I was originally going to weld something on over here. I couldn't find a set of I wanted to find a set of handlebars, like bicycle handlebars or something. I didn't have anything I was willing to cut up and use. But I found this pair of aluminum bars. They're lightweight. That will work with my favor with not adding a lot of weight to it. But I can't weld them to this, obviously. So what I think I'm going to try to do here is come up with a bolt-on solution. This is the clamp steering neck thing that was holding these bars. So what I'm going to try to do is cut it off square here and then bolt through to right here and mount the bars that way. I think it'll work. I'll also cut these bars shorter. I don't want them all the way that long. I'll cut them in like this. So let's get to that. Okay, let's walk you through all of our mods and then we'll see if this thing can bend some metal. First and foremost, we have our bending leaf extension here, and by loosening these 4 bolts, this can drop and it's adjustable, and it can give me like a lower edge to allow a piece of metal with a lip on it to be bent. So we got that going on. Added this bar all the way across from our handles, so we don't have to be clear out on the end in order to do it, so we can reach anywhere down here, grab it. Would have been nice to give a little more leverage. I guess it does give me a little more leverage because I'm not grabbing here anymore. I get a couple inches more, so maybe that'll help. If it doesn't, we'll add an extension on it. Over here on the sides, we added this big plate that covers up the big gap and big hole in the frame here, and strengthened all this together. Tied the front part, the top part, and the back part all together to make it all a lot stronger. We welded in this plate here to space these out to the right depth on both sides, and put a washer in there and greased all that stuff up where it wasn't greased before. Also welded in this bracket here and the gusset, which gives us a second bolt here to tie into. And what that does is allow our locking leaf to get clamped down in position and not bend and move and slide. Also added these braces in the bottom that squares everything up, ties the frame together nice and solid to where it's not all wobbly. And it also gives me a place to put my feet, so I can put pressure to keep the whole thing from wanting to tip back once I try to bend the metal with it. Actually, just the weight down there is actually helping that already, but I'll still be able to do this as well and hold it in place. That's the functional stuff in terms of making it stronger, making it work better, etc. The last things I added over here, took a couple of cheap skateboard trucks, made a bracket out of scrap steel and bolted those on there. On this end, I took a handlebar off of a mountain bike I picked out of the trash and cut it down so it's not clear out here, and used the original headset to bolt it to the frame. And then I added these motorcycle grips that I had in my parts stash. You may have saw I had one side is actually bigger because it's on the throttle, and so I had to wrap that handle and tape it in order to get this to stay. But it works really good in terms of picking it up, and the wheels roll really well. I was even able to roll it in and out of my garage over the little lip going in my garage with the skateboard wheels. It worked just fine. So that seems to be working out really nice. So let's see about bending some metal with it. Okay, here goes our first test bend. We're going to try to bend up some hat channel that I'm going to need for my hot rod to make the bracing for my cab. So, lock her down, and here comes our first bend. Is that 90? Okay. I think I got that pretty 90'd. All right, we can live with that. It's bending much better than it was before. So let's flip her over to the other side. Okay. Okay. So this is an 18 gauge steel, and it's almost 22 inches long. That's about the max of what I'm going to be needing this for. But I definitely have room to go and use it for heavier stuff. But the majority of what I'll be bending up is 18 gauge stuff. So now, in order to bend hat channel, I need to bend this right here back the other way on both sides. But with my extended leaf on here, I can't do that because I can't lay this flat. So this is where I need to loosen this and drop down my leaf. Alright. Need to file my slots a little longer because I'm only getting a ½ inch drop right now, and I need another ¼ inch. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop this off. Makes it more flexible. The idea here is if I need to make like stepped bends, I'll be able to like do ¾ inch to ¼ inch, like little steps, and use this leaf to support the metal down here. So I don't know if it's really needed. It might be overkill, overthinking it, whatever. But if I ever do need it, I'll have it. I do need to make my slots longer so I don't have to take it off all the way for ¾ inches, but you know, it is what it is right now. You know, I'll probably be tuning on this, doing things differently as I use it. I'll be fixing things that I don't like. All right, now that that's out of the way, come in here. Okay, locked in place, bend. I think I overbent that one a little bit, but we'll get over it. We'll be able to fix it. Now I'll take that out. All right. Okay, there we go. Look at that. Okay, overbent this one a little bit. I'll be able to straighten that back out. That's not a problem. But overall, I got this nice, sturdy, strong brace that's lightweight, made out of hat channel. Now, once I cut this to length and get it formed in there, I'm also going to pop some holes and dimple die it, so it'll be even lighter and stronger. But so hey, overall, this bent so much easier than the last time I tried to use this to bend. It was a longer piece, but I mean, it was all wobbly and it wouldn't hold the sheet down well enough, and I barely got bends, and I had to tune up the edges with a hammer and a dolly because they looked really bad. But you know, one test piece in, this thing, 18 gauge steel, this is stiff as all get out now. This is going to be a nice sturdy piece for my car, so I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy with how this bends now. All my modifications made it stronger, and hey, got this sexy orange color on here, looks nice. You know, I know the paint's just going to get beat up. I didn't put a lot of effort into making this look nice. My welds look crappy. You know, I missed places in the welding. There's some holes I missed. Whatever, I don't care. As long as it works good, that's the goal. And it does. It works really good. Everything seems to be sturdy. I'm really happy with how well it moves around. You know, with the skateboard wheels and the handles, it's easy to move around. Which is critical for me because I'm always having to move stuff in and out of small spaces to have places to work. I like to bring my stuff out in the driveway to work because I got lots more room. So that's really important to me. Anyway, so yeah, now the only thing left to do is to use it. And to use it, we're going to be making more of these because I'm back on the hot rod again. And that's what this is for. This is going to go straight into the car in just a little bit, and hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you got some ideas if you're thinking about doing this. There's a lot of videos out there on making modifications to the Harbor Freight sheet metal brakes. I recommend watching a lot of them because there's things that everybody does different. Not everybody does things the same way, and there are things that some people do better than others. So I say, hey, don't just take my ideas, go get other people's ideas and you know, learn for yourself. I'm not a professional, I'm just doing the best I can here while I build a hot rod. So back to the hot rod, more videos coming on that. So until then, YouTube, later.